on Christmas Eve, as the twinkling lights illuminated the extravagant party. A wild decision was made, and it changed everything. In the luxurious space of a mansion in New York, amid conversations about technology and the cosmos, Elon Musk, billionaire, founder of SpaceX and Tesla, known for his bold decisions, found himself drawn into an unprecedented bet. A half-joking, half-serious challenge: marry a completely random woman from the crowd. And so, an unexpected marriage between Elon Musk and a woman named Sarah Bennett, someone no one had noticed, began. The big question was raised: was this just a spontaneous game of fate? Or a choice that defied all logic for a famous billionaire? Behind the laughter and skeptical glances, their story was about to become an unbelievable event. A wedding without plans, a pairing of two complete strangers, and a decision filled with unpredictability. Could it succeed or fail from the very start? What do you think Elon Musk will do when faced with love this way? The answer, perhaps, will leave you in disbelief. Come along with us and hear the story. Outside, snow gently fell on the lit streets, enveloping the peaceful atmosphere of New York City. From the tall windows of the grand estate, where the Christmas party was taking place, warm yellow light bathed the luxurious rooms. The crystal chandeliers sparkled, reflecting the opulence of the crowd. Stories about billionaires, big deals, and expensive champagne. Amid the bustling atmosphere, Elon Musk, the man who had conquered the skies and space, stood apart, like an island in a sea of people. He didn't engage in conversation, nor did he participate in discussions about the future of technology. A simple black tuxedo, perfectly fitting his frame, was the only attire he chose. Leaning against the bar, holding a glass of neat whiskey, Elon showed no urgency. His eyes occasionally scanned the crowd before returning to his phone, looking up information on new SpaceX missions. "Why are you still working?" David Klein, a friend and business partner of Elon, teased, placing his glass on the bar. He patted Elon on the shoulder with a mischievous gleam in his eyes. "I guess you can't turn off your phone even on Christmas, right?" Elon didn't respond immediately, just raised an eyebrow, then casually replied, "If humanity's future is on Mars, then maybe I can't stop thinking about work. We can't stop just because it's a holiday." David laughed, his eyes lighting up as if he had found something intriguing. "You always think big. Think far. But the question I want to ask you is, when was the last time you did something completely unexpected? Not because of calculations or work, but just because of emotion. Because of life itself?" Elon tipped his head back, his eyes subtly sparkling with curiosity. "I never stopped taking risks. Starting companies, exploring space, innovating technology, those are the big things I risk every day." "But that's work," David interrupted, stepping closer. "What I mean is private matters. Have you ever let life surprise you? Have you ever tried doing something unplanned?" Before Elon could respond, David pointed toward the crowd. "Here's an idea. Let's make a Christmas bet. Marry a completely random person. Just tonight. No plans at all. No calculations. Nothing. Just pure surprise. Are you up for it, Elon?" Elon glanced around, his eyes filled with hesitation. But he couldn't look away from the challenge. Could such a spontaneous bet actually happen? Or was it just a joke? After all, Elon Musk wasn't one to shy away from a challenge. The room erupted with mocking laughter and constant whispers. All eyes turned to Elon, no one able to take their gaze off his reaction. They were used to his calm demeanor. But something felt different in the air this time. Elon stared at Richard for a long while, his expression unchanged. No sign of displeasure or anger. There was only a slight shift in his gaze. A flicker of light. A brief smile tugged at the corner of his mouth, as if he were seeing an amusing joke. How strange. I didn't think I'd be doubted like this, he said, his voice still calm, yet sharp. Love is chaos? You think I'll fail just because of that? Richard couldn't hide the satisfaction on his face. It's not that I think you'll fail. But love, Elon, that's something unpredictable. And no matter how skilled you are, you can't control everything. Elon remained silent for a moment, his eyes briefly scanning the faces around him. The models in their elegant outfits, the famous figures dancing under the lights, trying to make an impression. But among all these images, there was one person, one presence that stood out. Elon couldn't help but notice Sarah. She stood at the corner of the room. Nothing remarkable about her except her simple service uniform, yet somehow graceful. Her curly hair was tied neatly at the back, her round glasses pushed up constantly as a habit. However, what drew Elon's attention wasn't her appearance or her neatness, but her calm, effortless beauty. While everyone else competed for attention, Sarah went about her work with ease. She wasn't in a hurry, didn't need to do anything to stand out. She walked through the crowd with a natural demeanor, a gentle smile for her colleagues as if that was all she needed. Suddenly, Elon turned back to Richard, his face showing no signs of jest. Her, he said simply. She's the one I choose. Richard turned to look, disbelief evident on his face. Her? Elon. Are you sure? Elon showed no sign of hesitation. Instead, he just shook his head slightly. I'm not joking. I think she'll be the one. Without hesitation, he walked forward, his eyes never leaving Sarah. The crowd parted for him as he passed, whispers erupting as if they were witnessing an unbelievable scene. When Elon reached Sarah, she was still focused on her work, unaware of the attention from those around her. Excuse me, Elon said, his voice soft but carrying an unusual strength. Sarah looked up, her bright brown eyes meeting his with surprise. How can I help you, Mr. Musk? Elon stood before her for a moment, as if carefully thinking before saying something important. Marry me. The room seemed to fall silent, not a single person daring to breathe. Sarah looked at him, her surprise evident on her face. What? Did I hear that right? Marry me, Elon repeated, his tone unchanged, as if he had just made an ordinary request. Sarah couldn't help but laugh out loud. Did you really just say that? Or has someone challenged you to do this? Elon stood tall, his face unchanged. I'm serious. You're the only person in this room not trying to complicate everything. I think you'd be the ideal one. Sarah stopped laughing, surprised but also curious. Ideal for what? This isn't some kind of crazy proposal, is it? Elon smiled faintly, his gaze softening as if he had just realized something important. I'll explain if you agree. But first, are you ready to take on a new challenge? The whole room fell silent. Not a sound to be heard. Only the heavy breaths of Sarah. Every eye was on her, intense, as if each passing second was an unavoidable challenge. A heavy feeling spread in her chest. But amid the chaos, a fleeting thought crossed her mind. It's Christmas, and tonight will be unlike any other night. She stood tall, her eyes steady and challenging, looking directly at Elon. Fine. I agree. But don't expect me to accept this easily. Her voice was firm, yet carried an undeniable challenge. Elon merely smiled lightly, the smile gentle yet full of confidence. I'm not expecting that, he replied, his voice deep but resolute. The air grew tense as the two of them began to walk out of the grand hall of the grand estate. Whispers started to swirl in the crowd, mixed with surprise and excitement. Is this really happening? One person whispered, unable to hide their doubt. I thought he was an eccentric. But now, this is truly next level. Another guest chuckled, quickly pulling out their phone to capture the strange moment. Sarah felt her heart pounding harder than ever as they stepped outside, the cold air of New York City enveloping them. She wrapped her arms tightly around her coat, but her gaze stayed on Elon, who walked like a man who knew exactly what he wanted. Crazy, Sarah whispered, her voice breaking through the silent space. Elon glanced at her, his eyes showing no surprise. You made the decision yourself. No one forced you. She scoffed, her breath visible in the cold air. Yes. I seem to have a particular passion for making stupid decisions. Elon chuckled, his laugh low but warm. Then maybe this is the worst yet greatest decision you've ever made. The two of them climbed into the sleek black Runroll, the luxury car gliding through the city streets. But the anxiety in Sarah's heart didn't subside. Elon picked up his phone. A quick call being made. Find an open church. Prepare for the wedding. Maximum 2 hours. Sarah looked at him, feeling like her mind was spinning from how quickly he was organizing everything. You're really setting up a wedding like it's a business meeting? She asked, raising an eyebrow. Time is money, Elon replied, his voice unemotional. And a wedding is logistics with a touch of emotion. Sarah frowned. Romantic. Huh? He turned to look at her, his eyes filled with meaning, as if he could read her every thought. Do you need romance? Or do you need the truth? The question hung in the air between them, like a foggy cloud that couldn't be cleared. Before Sarah could answer, the car stopped in front of a small, quiet church, its warm yellow lights casting a gentle glow. Sunset Chapel lay nestled in the heart of lakeside hills, the air here peaceful in an almost eerie way. The staff stood waiting, prepared for a wedding no one could have predicted. Elon looked at Sarah one last time, his eyes determined. We've arrived. Sarah felt her heart pounding, but she couldn't stop. Her steps, though hesitant, still carried her into the church, where the rows of seats were neatly arranged and curious eyes were fixed on them. Surely, no one expected such a wedding to happen on Christmas Eve. The space inside Sunset Chapel was filled with a gentle warmth, the golden light from the twinkling lamps reflecting on the stone walls, creating a peaceful atmosphere. The pristine white bouquets were neatly arranged, forming soft patches of light, making the space feel rustic yet alluring. The mediator judge stood near the altar, his eyes somewhat surprised, as though he couldn't believe what was happening. But his professionalism remained unshaken. Elon's assistant entered softly. The bag in her hand was handed to Sarah, a gentle smile on her face. Mr. Musk thought you might want to try this dress, she said, her gaze encouraging yet somewhat hesitant. Sarah opened the bag, her eyes stopping on the delicate ivory dress, simple yet exuding a unique charm. She looked up at Elon, her eyes somewhat confused, as if she couldn't explain this subtlety. How did you know I needed this? She asked, her voice hesitant, yet a spark of curiosity gleamed in her eyes. Elon stood still, his gaze seeming to have read her thoughts. I always pay attention to the little details, he replied, his voice calm but compelling. Sarah couldn't decide what to feel in that moment, admiration or a little frustration, but eventually, she accepted the dress and walked toward the changing room. When she returned, all eyes turned toward her. The dress seemed made for her, gracefully hugging her curves. For the first time all evening, the anxiety in Sarah's heart gave way to a strong sense of confidence, as if she had stepped into a new world. Elon stood waiting at the altar, his black tuxedo radiating elegance and authority. He was not in a hurry, his sharp eyes showing a hint of surprise when he saw her. You look stunning, he said, his words like a gentle breeze, unexpectedly touching her heart. Sarah couldn't stop feeling the warmth in his words. Thank you, she replied, her voice soft like a wave, full of emotion. The ceremony began in a silence, with all the guests lost in their own thoughts. The mediator judge began in a soft tone, tinged with humor, lightening the atmosphere. We gather here on Christmas Eve to witness an unexpected and truly strange union, he said, causing a few faint laughs to rise from the guests. When it was Elon's turn to speak his vows, he stood tall, his eyes locked on Sarah, his voice deep and decisive. I don't promise perfection, nor do I promise everything will go smoothly, but I vow to go through this journey with you with everything I have. Life is full of risks, and I believe this is a challenge I'm ready to face, he said, causing some whispers to ripple through the room. Some impressed, others uncertain. Sarah took a deep breath, her fingers trembling slightly as she began to speak. But she looked at Elon with a determined gaze. Life never follows a pattern, and the best moments sometimes come from the unexpected. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I want to try, she said, her words like a declaration, full of courage, making the whole room fall silent for a moment, before applause erupted. Not just from the guests but also from Elon, who always maintained his calm. When the mediator judge declared them husband and wife, Elon didn't rush. He looked at Sarah one more time, his eyes sparkling with unspoken things. He leaned down, giving her a gentle but affectionate kiss, like a moment that stopped time, filling the room with a deep, profound silence. As they stepped out of the Sunset Chapel, the flash of cameras from the paparazzi lit up the cold night like blinding rays. The noise and chatter around them seemed to become part of a mystical scene, no longer a private wedding. This moment had now turned into an event the whole world was watching. Sarah felt the eyes of everyone on her. It felt as though she had stepped out of her simple life and into a foreign world, where every move could become news. Elon stood beside the runroll, waving for her to step in, like a hand pulling her out of the storm. So, how does it feel, Mrs. Musk? Elon asked, his voice still soft, but with an undeniable curiosity. Sarah looked at him, offering a small smile in her confusion. It's like I just stepped out of a falling airplane without a parachute, she said, trying to calm herself, but unable to hide the bewilderment in her eyes. Elon couldn't suppress a faint smile. Don't worry. I've prepared all the safety systems to make sure we're secure. After all, we both know I'm always ready for any challenge, he said, with his familiar confident air. The runroll rolled away, the streets of New York slowly fading in the streetlights. But Sarah couldn't shake the whirlwind of emotions inside her. She sat quietly next to Elon, only hearing the gentle hum of the engine and the distant whispers of the crowd behind them. She couldn't help but wonder if this was the right decision or just an irreversible leap of faith. But in this silence, she realized something. Life isn't always predictable. Sometimes, it's the unexpected, unplanned decisions that lead to new opportunities you never imagined. She didn't know what the future held, but at least she knew she wasn't alone now. And in that moment, as the car sped through the foggy streets, Sarah realized that every step, whether risky or hesitant, was part of a story she would write. She had chosen a path for herself. Not the easiest one, but certainly one she would never forget. The dazzling lights of New York still sparkled behind them, but in Sarah's heart, a new door was opening. She didn't know what lay ahead, but one thing she was sure of: life would never be boring. She had entered a journey that no one could predict, full of unexpected turns and challenges waiting. And though there was some anxiety, she felt something she had never felt before, a sense of freedom. A feeling that sometimes, just being brave enough to walk forward is enough. In that moment, she realized that it's never too late to start over, to change everything, and to believe in the opportunities the world offers. So, their story had only just begun. Who knows? maybe tomorrow. An unexpected wedding. An unusual relationship would not only change Sarah and Elon's destinies but also inspire many people in this vast world. If you enjoyed this story and want to follow Sarah and Elon's journey, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any exciting stories in the future. We will continue to bring you emotional and surprising tales.